All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 6 p.m. and I would like to call to order the regular meeting. For all of those who showed up at 5, I apologize for not being clear that we didn't have a work session tonight. Before we begin, we are able to be here and to self-govern because of the selfless sacrifices that our nation's veterans have made. And I'd like to pause and have a moment of quiet reflection on the service of so many Americans who have bravely served our country. Thank you. With that, I would like to begin with our special recognitions. And Mr. Rogers.
Okay, great. So I want to bring Lisa Mills up, if I could. She's the teacher of these children, and I'm looking for him. I don't see him.
You have a couple.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, thank goodness. All right.
Yes.
So I'll let her do this. Basically, this is the short version when it says Indiana Repertory Theater's Young Playwrights. It's a full sentence of what they are, correct?
Yes, yeah, just about here. So thank you. Thank you so much here. And thank you for taking this time to honor all the children and students in our school district. I'm thrilled to be back here again. I'm usually here, cheerleading the kids who have succeeded in the scholastic writing competition. But several years ago, I became aware of a script writing contest. And in the 3 years that we have done that, we've had 2 finalists the first year, who are now juniors. Last year, May Kahara, who is now a junior, won the Indiana Repertory Theater contest. And this year, we're thrilled because we had 7 students make the semifinalists. This is a phenomenal program because playwrights and directors and producers work with these students over months from the time that they submit their script, which is in September. So we had to jump on this as soon as school started. And then they have a series of times where they're meeting, revising, reworking, and so forth. And then we will find out after winter break who the finalists are and who the winner is. So we have, as you well know, many children who are very busy. So today, when I was like, are you coming? Are you coming? And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I have dance and whatever. So I'm really glad that Sahana Tarani has been able to come. So I'm gonna ask Sahana to go ahead and come up here. Okay. Thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and mention, and you can help me just to make sure I get everyone down. I'm going to mention Susie Sun. I wouldn't say Sun. Susie Sun. I started to say Kwam, but that's like her middle name here. So Susie Sun, and also Annika Patel and Kyra Chopra, and Neve Cameron. And then we actually had a student who thought he made it. He was very excited about making it. And then when he looked at it again, they had actually marked him and said, you were on the honors list, but didn't make the semifinals. So that was Eric, and he's actually still revising his script with me and still learning from the situation. And lastly is, okay, my gosh, I thought she was, thank you, Shui, because she is so quiet. Shui wrote a fantastic play as well. So Hannah, do you just want to say what your title is?
My title is A Mother's Connection, I think, yeah.
Okay, and students wrote about many different things. Several of them were about serial killers, okay, which seems to be a popular theme for freshmen. I don't know, but we did have some students who really touched up on some real life issues and put their hearts into their script. So I want to thank them so much for being here, and I want to thank Mr. Rogers for giving us time to recognize our student writers. So thank you.
Congratulations.
do that here tonight. I'm so sorry. Okay.
I have one more. I know I only get one, but I have one more recognition. So Randy, if you could at least stand up, or if you want to come up here, that's fine. You're gonna stay there? Okay. So Randy Stute was honored over the weekend as, can you tell me exactly what that was too? Again, that's kind of a sentence.
Yeah, it's one of the 5 certificates of merit given nationally by the American Association of Teachers of German, and that's for recognition of your teaching and your career.
Basically an amazing German teacher. So thank you for allowing me to do 2.
Great, thank you very much. And now we have the special education highlights with Mrs. Quaglio.
Good evening. Most of you know that I am Stephanie Quaglio, and I am the new Director of Special Education for this school year. I have been in this role for about 3 months, I would say. So it's really been a whirlwind. So I will tell you a little bit about our department, and then hopefully you can learn a little bit and I can share what we have to look forward to in the future. So when you think about our programs, I wanted to share a little bit about our programs because we have changed them just a little bit. So at the elementary school, I have worked very closely with Sarah Delaney and Rhonda Laney. And there they have 2 resource room teachers. This year they added a behavioral teacher. We've spent a lot of time together just working and collaborating on what that position can look like and how it can best support our teachers. We have 1 registered behavior technician and 10 paraprofessionals in that building. I have had an opportunity to meet all of them in my 3 months and feel like they are off and going. At the intermediate school, that was, of course, my safe place because I came from there, so I knew who to work with there. So I've worked with Margaret Pasaros. She hasn't gotten rid of me yet. And my new assistant, the new assistant principal, Beth Stansberry, there they have 2 resource room teachers. And if you remember correctly, the essential skills program that was located at the elementary school relocated to the intermediate school. That has been a wonderful new addition. We've done a little problem solving along the way, but it's been so nice to have those kiddos at the intermediate school. I think they've brought a little bit of joy and love to the building, that little spark and flair this year. And it's been really nice to see them not only in their classroom, but with the special area teachers. And at the junior senior high, they've gone swimming, they've gone out to Walmart, did grocery shopping, and made a few things. So that's been a wonderful addition this year to the intermediate school. They also have 1 registered behavior technician and 7.5 paraprofessionals, and then 2 on top of that are just in the essential skills program. At the junior senior high, they have 4 resource room teachers and 1 essential skills teacher. They also have 1 registered behavioral technician and 11 paraprofessionals and 4 essential skills paras in their building as well. We have worked hard, I think, to create a nice group there. I've worked with Chad Rogers. Shelby, of course, has been amazing to help guide me get started. And then Eric has also helped me with just a few things, getting to know the school. We've already started meeting monthly as a department, kind of just us to get to know each other. And I think that has been off and running. At least I haven't heard any different yet, so that's good. If you don't know, I am located at the old central office building. I think I need to call it something else at this point. So it is the Department of Special Education and Transportation. So I share the main office, that office area, with Doug. If you're ever around, you should come see it. It looks a lot different than probably the last time you saw it. But we've become office mates, as I call Doug. He's been wonderful to work with, especially when we have transportation situations that are occurring. But there are 2 part-time secretaries there. Those were the secretaries that were in the schools. They are not my secretaries. I want to make that clear. They're still doing their same roles and tasks that they were doing before, but they are more task instead of school initiated. But we are all kind of working together to make a little department area. And then last thing, we have a contracted BCBA who also works with us and gives suggestions and helps our RBTs. And that has all gone pretty wonderfully so far. So. These are just the percentages. I updated a little bit, so those show you kind of where we are right now with our numbers. They change. They are ever changing. So that, to be fair, was 2 weeks ago, and I know that has already changed at least 10 times. So do know that, but we currently, when I finished this up, it was approximately 231 students that are receiving services, and 10.53% of those of our corporation are identified of special education. So you'll see that our numbers are kind of saying the same as far as our percentages, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about more what we're going to do moving forward to help. So supporting our staff, that is, as you know, special education can be very taxing, not only for our teachers, but also for our paraprofessionals. We have probably some of the most amazing paraprofessionals I've ever worked with. I have worked in all 3 school districts here, and they are phenomenal. So at the end of last year, Shelby sent out a survey to the paras, just asking them what sort of professional development would they like and how would they like that to look. And from that, those were their top 3 choices that are listed on there. So behavior, they wanted some more training in behavior, character development curriculum, and the science of reading. So on our first PD day that we had as teachers, the paras actually were with me, all of them corporation-wide. And the first part of it we spent with Gina Warren. She was our contracted BCBA through a grant that Shelby wrote, that I was able to get her to come in and do a 2.5-hour presentation to our paras, give them some different strategies, some new tools in their toolkit. That was kind of our morning session. And then the afternoon, we switched over to the science of reading to give them some familiarity with the science of reading. They all left with different curriculum and different things that they can implement, all backed by the IDOE science of reading. And I did a survey after that and received a lot of great feedback from that. And so I was very excited about that and look forward to continuing the progress. All of our pairs are now set up on the master teacher, our new ones as well. So we had a pair grant that funded that as well. And we got them all logged in. And within that program, they can do all kinds of different professional developments. They can pick and choose maybe, as we know, the elementary students are a little bit different than the junior high students. So they're able to pick what different professional developments they need in their little webinars that are like 30 minutes, and it gives them tools and different tips that they can use. Character development curriculum, that is actually coming. And I'll talk a little bit more in depth about that here in just a few slides, or maybe 2 slides. So I'll get into that and how we're going to address that. Special education teachers, I also created and sent out a survey to them just to see what their top 3 areas of focus were that they would like me to focus on this year. So one of them was to create more opportunities for collaboration and communication. We have already implemented some different opportunities to collaborate. We had our first quarterly special education meeting as a department. I am doing some virtual check-ins, so we'll talk a little bit more about those in the slides above, but I feel like we have done a great deal to help with getting those in motion. Reducing paperwork and tasks. As I shared, we have our special education secretaries that have relocated to the same office that I am in, and we have been able to give them more tasks to do for the teachers, which they have really appreciated. So they are doing like the distributing of IEPs to teachers and getting those out. It's the little things that make the difference for them. So they are able to log like communication with parents and do kind of the tedious jobs that really can become burdensome throughout the year. So, and then developing IEPs, that's something that we're going to continue to work on throughout this school year, and we'll have more opportunities to have some professional development on those areas and what is to come. So. I, being new, made 2 goals for myself and our department. The first one is to create a special education department to better support students and staff. So, that was kind of the reasons for bringing the 2 secretaries, part-time secretaries, to the same office as myself. I also relocated Holly Walker, who's actually not one of our employees. She's actually a class employee, but she's our specialist, so she chairs all of our case conferences, and we have all relocated to that building. That allows a lot for communication and collaboration a lot more easily, and just to even talk about different cases that are coming up. We are having bi-weekly and monthly meetings with building level special education teachers. So I am meeting with teams of teachers, the special education teachers. I am also meeting with the administrators at their schools to just talk about upcoming things, concerns, questions that they have, and how I can support them. We started our quarterly meetings. Like I said, we had one of those a few weeks ago, and we will continue having those throughout the school year, and that brings all of us together, all teachers district-wide, and myself and our GLASS specialists. And then lastly, the special education secretaries continuing to work on what other tasks that they can do to help support our teachers, special education teachers, to lighten their load that they have. Goal number 2, this is going to be coming out very soon. So my goal is to create a special education parent study group regarding ways to improve communication with our special education parents. I don't know how many of you have ever been through the process of special education, but it can be very cumbersome. It can be very overwhelming. You can feel just kind of alone at times. And so our goal is to find ways to communicate with our special education parents so that they feel supported and know the resources in the community and can get that out for them. So I'm going to start with just a survey to all of our special education parents with some questions to get some feedback. I feel like it's going to be important to allow everyone to have a voice. And then some randomly selected special education parents, which my goal is to have representation at all areas and all levels be a part of this study group. So, I would like a wide range of, parents who have a DHH student, or parents who have a student who's on the, who's autistic, or, just to kind of make sure that you have a nice realm, K to 12. And then lastly, develop a communication plan based on the parent feedback with the support group. So that is my goal, my second goal for the school year. And celebrations. So we did receive 2 grants. I will absolutely not take credit for them. Shelby did them. I am just the one who gets to implement them and make them come to fruition. She was the brains behind all of it. So we received a para grant, which has allowed us to provide our paras with some wonderful para trainings and opportunities. And then we also received our RoboKind grant, and so that is actually just now getting underway, and we will actually have 2 robots joining us, and if you research it, I think you will find how amazing it is. So they were designed for students with autism, but they can be used with anybody. So we will have 1 robot that will be housed at the elementary school, and we have staff that's going to be trained. I even talked Sarah Delaney into allowing me to have our preschool teacher trained in it as well. And then we will have the other one at the intermediate building that will be in our essential skills classroom. But it has all embedded curriculum, and it focuses on social emotional well-being and different lessons that they can use, and works on just different traits along the way. So it's all like done for the teachers. So we'll be starting that training soon. I'm really excited to get our 2 robots, and they will not look the same. So that'll be fun too. So we'll all go through some training together. As I shared with you, September 20th, the paras did receive the behavioral support training that was made possible by the para grant by Gina Warren, our BCBA. They also had the science of reading training, which was done by Cassie Oddie and Rhonda Laney. We kind of broke up into elementary and then the intermediate and junior, senior high paras, because there's a little bit of a difference there. Cassie Oddie has also continued, and she's doing some after-school trainings with the elementary paras that they can sign up for and get paid to go to, and they'll be getting some additional lower-level science of reading training through Cassie. The master teacher was renewed based on the grant as well. So as I shared, different areas, professional developments based on their needs. I think that continues to be really important, and our paras enjoy that they can pick and choose what they need. Our K-6 Essentials classroom has smoothly relocated. There's been a couple of bumps along the way, but I do feel like it's gone as smooth as possible. So I thank all of you for the support on getting that done. We've had some implementation of new procedures to help reduce the workload of our special education teachers this year already. And last, I have been working with InSource. They actually requested to meet with me because they were so impressed with our above average participation in our parent surveys, and they would like to know what our procedures are, and so that they can help schools that don't get as great of parent responses in their surveys. And so we're actually meeting next week and to kind of talk about that. So I thought that was pretty exciting. Again, I'm new, but I knew the procedures then too, but the kudos to Shelby and to the special education team for having, working with them to get those done. So. And last but not least, just some looking forward tos. I'm going to be attending parent council meetings. I have a couple on the books already in each building just to get my face out there. Most people, by now know who I am, but in the new role, I'd like to start getting to know people that way as well. Again, starting the parent group, I really think that that's important. Our special education parents need to know that they have a voice in that they're going to be heard and learn about those resources. So I'm hoping that really helps. I'm currently working with Gina Warren, who is our BCBA, in creating some working relationships with local ABA centers to help our West Lafayette students who are transitioning back to our schools. So we're actually going to have an evening where we're inviting in just the local ABA centers to come in and learn about our programs and how they can help with transitioning students back. Again, receiving the training for our teachers and paraprofessionals through the RoboKind grant, and then just the continued collaboration with our parents and staff and the local directors of special education and outside agencies. So I can't thank you all enough for your patience as I learn my new role. I'm very excited and hope that, that there's more to look forward to in the future. So thank you. Thank you.
You've had a busy 3 months. Rachel, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay.
You're used to me asking you questions, I know.
Yes.
I would like to know what qualifies a student as SPED for your data gathering. You put in there the percentage. They have an IEP in place, or are there anything else that would qualify?
No, just those ones that were already qualified.
Okay,
correct.
Thank you. And I'm interested in, I love goal number 2. I'm interested in how you'll protect student confidentiality. I know that's always an issue when we try and do a parent group. So I'm just curious how you're navigating that.
Yeah, so absolutely. So, I think just being upfront with people that, they don't have to share anything necessarily about themselves or their kids, but know that by being there, they are saying that they do have a child with a disability. So, they're going to have to be comfortable with that. They're going to be they're volunteering to be a part of the group. But as far as the feedback and the survey, that's all going to be anonymous. And so that part of it, like it won't have any information regarding them or their families on it.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Lawrence, sure.
I have a quick question. Yeah, my understanding is our paraprofessionals, they just come and go. Their turnover is pretty high. I saw you pay a lot of attention for those paraprofessionals because you have regular meetings with them and also provide necessary trainings. I really appreciate that. So I'm just wondering, that kind of effort, in your opinion, do you think we can help us to keep those paraprofessionals in our, retention kind of things? So.
I mean, that's always the goal, looking for those, I don't want to say little things because they're actually kind of big things, but ways that we can support them and make it so that we are shining and that they want to work here compared to other school districts. And I will say that having worked in the others, we provide a lot to our paras that I've never seen before. And so I'm hoping that as we continue to provide them with the support and resources that they need, that is essentially the goal.
Okay. Another thing, I saw you have redesigned the procedures, trying to reduce the workload for the special teachers. So who will share their load used to be for the special education teachers?
I'm not sure. I want to make sure that I'm answering your question. So when I talk about their load, our special education secretaries, we have 2 part-time secretaries, and they were located, one was at the junior senior high and one was at the elementary school. Both of them are now located in the same building as myself, and we have been able to do things, reassign things so it's more task driven rather than school driven. So I have, for example, the one secretary, she is scheduling all of the case conferences. She's logging all of the parents' communication information about how many times she's contacted them. She's, so it's more task driven. And then I was actually able to add in additional tasks that they haven't done in the past. So they were doing the other secretaries, like sending out the parent surveys, sending out progress monitoring, doing grade checks for the high school. So different things that they weren't able to do before, since it was more building specific. It has freed up more time. I also think having them together so that they can collaborate when one maybe has a lot more to do one day, they're easily able to communicate with each other and say, hey, I have this that's coming up. Can you help me with this? So they have worked together really well. And I think that has helped increase their ability to support the special education teachers further.
Okay, thank you. And also I saw you have 2 goals, specific goals, and that's actionable. And also I think that addressed a lot of feedback I collect from the parents with special education student. So I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to some good movement, good actions from your department. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the effort. It looks really exciting, and because I kind of heard something related and before, and so I feel you are addressing many of those issues, including the feedback and and professional development for teachers. So I have several questions. So for example, I wonder, for the professional development, do we also do that for general education teachers?
Correct. Yes.
For special education issues in particular, because it sounds to me sometimes general education teacher may not be aware of some of the needs that.
Correct.
So
yeah. So I know that along the school year, the principals oversee in their building their professional development. But I could tell you for a fact that having worked at the intermediate school, we're constantly finding ways. And I know Sarah has. I can't speak as much to the junior senior high. I apologize, Chad, but I know that they are continually to incorporate different ways to train them in different areas. Whether that's behaviorally, academically, and then kind of work with them. So that has been going on, and I anticipate that continuing.
Okay, great. And kind of similarly, I feel maybe if some workshops can be given to parents about this issue, it can be helpful too, because the parents sometimes don't necessarily know the best approach to address many of those issues. I think, it'd be helpful. And another thing, I'm not sure, because I heard this from some people. I'm not sure whether it's true. And some paraprofessionals said that they are not invited to the IEP meetings. I'm not sure whether that's the case.
That is the case. You're correct.
Okay, so is that they are not allowed to by law or something?
So our paraprofessionals, to be honest, they are there to work with the kids. They are paid to work with the kids, and it would cause a lot of disruption to our students' day to have their paras then joining meetings. Like, they are helping to continue to run the special education rooms, to continue to provide support for them. Yes, we can get a sub like we can a teacher, but I'm here to tell you those are so hard to find. Like, we think paras are hard to find, para subs are even harder to find. So a lot of times our teacher of records, who are the ones who are trained in the meetings, how the meetings should go, they're the ones who are attending, but they do talk to their parents. They do get feedback. They do bring and share different ideas that maybe their parents have, but they are the licensed person who is the one who's at the table. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because just some of them said they know the kids very well, but somehow they don't have the opportunity to directly share their experience. Yeah, and maybe there's some constraint, but if there's a way for us to kind of compensate them for attending those meetings as well, it might be helpful for the kids. I don't know. I just share what I heard.
Maybe looking into different ways to make sure that their voice is heard, I think would probably be much more beneficial. If we have the kids, like, whole team at the table, then who's going to be with the kid? You know, like, I mean, that's going to rock their world to not have their special education teacher, their trusted person, their safe person there with them.
Okay. My last question, sorry, about the testing process. So, what process the students and the parents need to go through to be qualified or eligible for 504 or IEP? And so is there, okay. So
We could talk about some board training regarding
maybe put that
special ed law.
information on the website, so for people to kind of easily find. Maybe it's in the handbook, which I haven't read thoroughly yet, but something like that, because that's also an issue I kind of heard.
That those types of questions I'm hoping will come out, and when I ask for the feedback, for some different ones, I think that also, they've all been through the process, everyone who would be on the committee or the study group. So I think that just like, I'd like to hear their voice too and see what they have to say about some different things and how we can work. But I'm definitely hearing you today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all
Rachel.
your work.
I just had one follow-up question, just to be clear. I just want to make sure that I understand it. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
You look scared right now.
Well, I don't know. It seems like I don't know.
I just have a follow-up question for you here.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to be clear, I, in my mind, the teacher of record is the licensed professional responsible for the child's outcomes, along with the family.
Correct.
But they are responsible ultimately for the child's progression academically. Is that true?
True. Yes.
And the paras are there to support the child and help implement the plan that the teacher of record and the parents and the professionals
Correct.
charged
Yes.
with that determined as
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yeah. The
Okay.
teacher of record designs all the lessons and all of that. So
Make
all
sure.
of that is done through them.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
I understand fully. That was my understanding of it, but I got a little fuzzy there for a
Yep.
minute.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you all so much. Have a
Appreciate
good
it.
evening.
Next, we're going to bring Mr. Rogers back to give his school spotlight, and it looks like maybe a little more recognition with Mrs. Mills.
So before I get started, we had another item. I want to say they were not late.
No, it's the doors. I'm so sorry.
Think about putting the door number out there. So we had a fantastic writer and her family all outside trying every door. They even saw the live stream. We're missing it. We're missing it. We're missing it. So she's here, and I told her to ask for some ice cream or a special dinner.
Thank you for sticking with it and coming back. We appreciate
Yeah.
Come on and tell them your title, please.
So hi, I'm Kyra, and the title of my play is Shots After the Bell.
What was that? Shots after the bell?
Yeah,
Okay.
just a
A little bit about it, yeah. I wanna hear. I'm
so
intrigued.
I watch the news with my family every night, so I decided to write a play about a school shooting, kind of to bring awareness to that. So that's what my play is about.
That's a hard topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
you.
Thanks for sticking around. Thank you for
Next.
letting us do that.
In a couple months, we'll be at our new location where there was
Just
two
a few doors.
There are 2 doors rather
Right.
than 92. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so the junior senior high presentation, if we could go ahead and get that started. So there are demographics, and I'm not the person that just reads things off the slide. So hopefully you guys are kind of following along there. I think one of the things, even if you go down to the bottom where I kind of made it a little bit lighter, the GPS site is a new site for us. It's not always up to date, but it's getting there. And then the data exchange is a really, really big one that we use in the high school. There's lots of information there, but the graduation rate, this is where we really get to start to brag about West Lafayette. First of all, the iLearn, which would be in our junior high. I'm interested to learn more about that and what we do. Those aren't bad at all. They're very, very good. We have a couple of dips, nothing to really write home about, but I'm just interested to see kind of how we operate that, how we use that data, being new to this building. I was a middle school principal, as many of you know, for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. Back then it was iStep Plus. So I'm familiar with the whole process, but this thing has changed over time. So I'm just interested to see what we do there. Over to our right, the SAT, that's where we dominate. One of the areas that we dominate for sure. That is an absolutely crazy high score. That is an average. All of our 11th graders take it. It's our new accountability test. So everybody takes it. So this isn't just like the kids going to college or the top kids. This is every single kid. So that's fantastic. And then our graduation rate, you can see that is kind of increased here. I know that we had a low there that shocked me when I saw that in 2021. Big thanks to Shelby Johnson on that 2024 one. So what happens is we have to kind of prove to the state who graduates sometimes. There's just a couple of anomalies. So for example, there were 5 or 6 kids in that cohort out of 191 kids that graduated, walked across, people shook hands, gave them a diploma, but the state didn't recognize that for whatever reason. There's just a whole lot of clicks in state reporting. And so then we have to go and say that they did. Or what will also happen is there'll be some kid that got on our cohort as a freshman, never really got into our high school, moved, went somewhere else, went out of state, and they're hard to track as well. And so they get on our cohort. So we have to really do a good job of that. I'm hoping the DEX will start to allow that to be more live data. But basically, in 2024, we were around 94, 95%. And then after we did our audit, which I say we, Shelby Johnson, that is like 189 out of 191 kids, something like that. It's crazy high. And I have nothing to do with that. That was before me. I was wishing it was lower, to be honest. No, kidding. Also, where we are amazingly high, and this is what we do well, the national merit, that PSAT, that's what our 10th graders take. Thanks for allowing us that half day. Just recently, our entire building, with the exception of 7th graders and 12th graders, take that, and they take it very, very seriously. And the 11th graders will take that PSAT for the national merit contest or finalists. And so this year we've already commended 25 of them, and then there'll be that'll move down to then who are the finalists. So 10 is a really, really high number. I know that in 6 years where I was before, I don't know that we had 10 total. So to have 10 in a year, I mean, again, it's what West Lafayette is. And then the AP, 745 exams given. That is Elise Gruss, our counselor who does that, who needs tons and tons and tons of help, because the AP exams, as many of you know, is the first 2 weeks there in May. And that is a lot of students and a lot of kids and a lot of success. Fives are, again, basically perfects. 5s and 4s pretty much will guarantee you credit anywhere you would like to go, and 3s might as well. So that's a lot of success and things that we're really doing well. Goal number 1, how to support mental health. So I tried to kind of get to the parts where we are kind of moving towards or just have recently done. So I know that we started the Zen Den, and then really kind of cool, if you go into a junior high classroom, they're doing this mindset mover thing. It has nothing to do with their content, but they just do it kind of the beginning and take like a 5-minute timeout. That's really, really neat. The one I'm excited about is MTSS. Not always something that has been highlighted in junior highs and high schools everywhere in the state. More junior highs, not so much high school. But in order to do that properly, we need to be able to do tier 1 instruction, really good practices in the classroom before it gets to MTSS. And so we have a committee of about 15 to 18, and we are working on trying to identify what our pillars are, what we're going to do in all classrooms in the tier 1 area. And that hopefully will then start to eliminate some of our kids getting into MTSS formally, because we're doing it across the board to really help kids. I love the phrase, we're going to work the problem. They come to us with different problems, we're going to work the problem. I don't need an IEP for that. I don't need a 504 for that. I don't need an MTSS for that. We just work the problem, and we will get there. So that's an exciting new thing. And how does it help mental health? Well, when we're working with you and meeting your needs, you're not going to stress nearly as much. So next one, please. Goal 2, this is my favorite, right? I'm a school culture guy. So if you see that fun with the faculty, I think that's so important. For I don't know how many years I've been doing this, 28 years, I always tell my family, I got to get to school. I never say I got to get to work. And that's a mindset. So we've already had some fun. We played some bingo, and we gave, you won it, didn't you, Randy? The 3D printer? 3D printer, he didn't even know what it was. And his department had to say, you're going to hold on to that. That's pretty cool. So that was the grand prize. They've started the Junior Highness, which was before me. And that's really a good way to kind of continue to identify that we're just not one big glob of a school. And then peer coaching will work on that. And I put instructional framework and rounds. And I've had teachers ask about that as we talk about what people do in classrooms. And so I'll be excited to see if we can get there. We have fabulous teachers doing fabulous things, and they don't get to see them. They don't get to see each other. And so instructional rounds have nothing to do with evaluations. They have nothing to do with scores. They have to do with, I want to go across the hall, and I want to get some release time, and I want to see what you're doing in that room. The best professional development is in the building. They just don't see it. The last one, not a goal, not a surprise. I don't even know if I was getting paid yet, and we were working on math placement. So where are we? What's going on? First and foremost, I'd like to thank the math department. They've been consummate professionals in this whole transition. When I started in here, I have talked with Mrs. Blaisdell. I have met with the department. I have met with them, I think maybe 3 or 4 formal times, and I've worked with a lot of the individual teachers. They care about kids. They want to get it right. They don't want kids stressed. They care about the whole child. And so it has been a struggle on what to do and how to get there. So when I say it's collaborative, I mean that. And we're going to share whatever we can come up with families. And I'd also say that it'll be a work in progress. If it's not perfect, we will try to make it better. Recommendations, we're still going to have them. And I want everyone to understand that they will be recommendations. This is what the experts think would be best for your kid. And then the next dot, families are going to have voice in that recommendation. I use the phrase buyer beware. I met, I think, with 10 to 11 families over the summer and had those conversations. And so I think we can really get there because they are in disagreement at times, and that's okay. And so if some eggs get broken because they went too high, we'll work that problem. If kids get in there and they're younger, but they're successful, then we'll deal with that. If kids get in there and they're younger and they're smart and they can handle it, but it's still an issue for them, we'll work that problem. And every math teacher's on board with working that problem and delivering an instruction to kids and not lowering our standards or our rigor. So I think that sums up that last bullet point. I'm excited. All right, celebrations. I got to learn what robotics was. I've never seen that. And so that was a picture when I went over to the fairgrounds. We had a great time. Just like tonight when we could only have about 2 kids here from the writing, our kids are involved in everything across the sun. That's important. We need them to be connected. Kids that are connected are more successful. So this is highlighting all the different things that we have as far as ECAs and support that we get. Huge shout out to Parent Council staff shirts that we got at the beginning of the year, which I really love. And they've bought us, I cut off food truck. My bad. I was so excited about getting the Krabby Mike's thing up there. Food trucks. Go ahead.
It's correct on mine.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay. And then, wow, we've had a lot of success. So we've won sectional titles in fall across the board. I mean, it's boys soccer, girls soccer, tennis, volleyball. Charlotte Simpson qualified for state in girls cross country, and I missed it. Jack Chandler cross country and boys won the sectional title individually. Huge. And he was our number 2 runner. Our number 1 one was injured. So imagine if we could have gone 1-2. So those are our successes. I think that's a lot, and it's great to be here.
Great. Thank you very much. That's
Do I
all.
stay for questions?
Thank you. All righty. Next up, we have communication from the audience, beginning with Becky Creech. There she is.
Okay, my name is Becky Creech. I'm a science teacher who is also part of the calendar discussion group. I'm thankful that Dr. Greiner and the administration includes teachers in the calendar process. The collaborative nature of our central office team, school administrators, and teachers is one of the main reasons I still enjoy teaching at Westside. I know people have strong opinions about the school calendar. I've heard things at the grocery store, football games, and even at my own extended family gatherings. As someone who has worked on developing many school calendars, I think this might be my 8th for West Lafayette, I want to try to address some of the questions and concerns I've heard from students, teachers, parents, and community members. Indiana state law requires students to be in school for 180 days. With those days, the main goal of creating a calendar is to do what's best for the education of our students. We try to split the 180 days equally between both semesters. Since we teach some semester-only classes like Gov and Econ, it is important that students have similar learning opportunities whether they take the class in the fall or spring semester. We are mindful of the required testing, final exams before winter break, state-mandated testing windows for iLearn, iRead, PSAT, and SAT. AP tests are given early in May, so we want to provide our students with as many days to learn concepts and practice skills before they are tested. We follow Purdue's spring break. For those asking, we can't follow Purdue's fall break because our break has to be at the end of our first grading period as a natural break for both students and teachers. High school graduation is always the Friday of Memorial Day weekend, so that our out-of-town families can make necessary travel plans. What about the early start date? I know it looks bad to be early in August. However, the last few years we've gotten out earlier in May based on Memorial Day. So we still get the same number of weeks off in the summer and go to school for the same magic 180 days. It's just that the actual calendar dates have shifted up. It will return to a later August number the following year. If we started later in August, we'd have to give up a fall break, the extra day at Thanksgiving, and have fewer days off for winter break. There's always a give and take. What about adding extra holidays? We currently include most of the federal holidays. If we added more holidays off within the school year, we would have to go to school into at least mid-June and possibly start at the end of July. We still need those 180 days. It's great that our principals currently work with families to allow students to miss school for family holidays and vacations. Why can't parents have input on the calendar? The teachers and administrators understand what is best for the education of all our students. We are the educational professionals who you have hired and trusted to teach your students. That being said, many of our teachers are also parents. This calendar is not exactly what's best for my family, but it's our job to make decisions that are best not just for us, but for all of us. We make decisions that are best for our collective group of West Lafayette students. My final calendar thought: everyone will always have their own opinions, and therefore no calendar will ever be perfect. We do our best and then focus on the more important task of providing our students with the best education possible over those 180 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Gabby Barash.
Hi, I'm here to talk about the pickleball and tennis court situation, and I just want for clarification to know what I am talking about, which proposal we have. Is it possible that I could get some clarity about the number of pickleball courts that are being suggested to go on to the tennis courts?
4.
So on 4 tennis courts, and then it would be 1 pickleball court per tennis court?
I believe so.
And using that net?
That I don't know.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll just assume so, because that would be the only way to do it. Okay, perfect. My name is Gabrielle Kramer. I am a West Lafayette tennis alum. I'm also a parent of West Side kids. Thank you for making the refinishing of the West Lafayette team tennis courts a priority in your budget. West Lafayette has a storied tennis program with individual state champions, regular sectional and regional championship victories, and the occasional semi-state crown. How do we do it? The 10 free and public tennis courts. These are now the only free and public tennis courts in West Lafayette. On nice days in the spring and summer and fall, these courts are full of tennis players working to improve their game. You may see families teaching their children, West Lafayette high school players working to get better, to make varsity, or to put in the extra effort to hone their skills to win the sectional or semi-state, or even to become the state champion. This is a place where players can put in long hours to learn to love the game of tennis. Our community overwhelmingly needs more tennis courts, not to put the few ones in competition with pickleball now. Although these West Lafayette school tennis courts are paid for and maintained by the schools, the West Lafayette Community School Corporation has historically been generous with allowing these courts to be community courts, hosting all park and rec classes and allowing all community members to have access. Is it correct that this has all been free of charge to the city of West Lafayette? If this is true, it's especially my belief that the city should now help with the refinishing of these tennis courts without the stipulation of adding pickle lines. Pickleball is certainly great fun to play, but until West Lafayette has an extracurricular pickleball activity, there's no place for it on our school campus for several reasons. The extra lines are disruptive to competitive play. When the ball hits a line, any line, it bounces in a different way. And when you're playing competitively, this can really mess up any point. The other thing that is not being considered, I believe, is the noise in pickleball. Pickleball has a very loud pinging noise, and if you Google it, you'll find people are very upset with pickleball being put in their neighborhoods. Putting this into onto our Willis campus could be very disruptive on the playground play, and who knows how far it carries. In addition to the neighborhood being upset, please search on the internet pickleball and noise, and you'll see a lot of these reports. So I hope we can find an additional and better place for the pickleball courts that does not compete with the tennis programs. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Finally, we have Hema Suresh.
She had to leave.
She had to leave. Okay. Thank you. All righty. Our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I need a motion, please. Moved by Tom Schott, seconded by Rachel Witt. There's no discussion on the consent agenda, so all in favor of approving those items, please. I'm sorry?
I have a motion to remove this 2026, 2027 school calendar off this consent agenda.
So you want to pull the calendar from the consent agenda. Do you have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Daisha. Okay. All right. All those in favor then of returning to passing the consent agenda without item number 4, please indicate with a raised hand. Mrs. Julian, that is everybody, Brad? No, I'm sorry. That just needs a move in a second. We're just voting for the rest of the items in the consent agenda, and then we'll return to that. Okay, that's everybody to pass the rest of the consent agenda, Mrs. Julian. All right, now we'll return to the calendar. Lawrence, go ahead, please.
Are we going to need a motion for that? And before
You
we
did. You
discuss-
moved and Daisha seconded. Now we're in discussion for the calendar.
Yeah, but that will be an individual separate issue, to a separate motion. Do we need a motion a second before we discuss that?
You got it. You got your motion was you. The second was Daisha. We voted on the rest of the consent agenda. Now we're moving to the discussion of item number 4.
Yeah, my understanding is I motion to move this from out of the consent agenda, and Deja second my motion to
Yep, but that
remove.
doesn't require a vote.
Yeah, I know. But now we talk about this issue, there's supposed to be individual motion, right?
But we went ahead and did the rest of the consent agenda, items number 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. We can vote on that again if you'd like to, and then we'll return to the calendar.
No, we're already done with that.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is it's your turn to talk. What do you want to say about the calendar?
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying this will be kind of separate.
She's
I-
done it correctly, Lawrence. She's done it, that's the correct way to do it. So now it's just open to discussion and you have the floor.
There's been no motion or second on the new agenda item. So that has to be handled separately before.
This is a new item, kind of,
We don't have to amend the calendar. We pulled we don't have to amend the agenda. We pulled the calendar out of the consent agenda, so it becomes a new item.
that's right.
Right, and that's what we're discussing now. So would you please discuss the calendar?
I think that should be a new item.
Okay, what would you like for me to do?
No, I think probably we need, say, a motion for that item and then second, and then
To
we
do
discuss.
what?
Huh?
To do what?
We have that motion for that item, the calendar.
So
You don't motion the calendar. I don't understand what you're asking. I'm
No,
sorry.
that's an individual motion, right? Individual item, we were going to talk and vote, right?
Okay, there is a consent agenda. It's got these items.
Yeah, we're done with
We took
that.
this one out, and
Yes.
now it's on the agenda. It doesn't just disappear. It's below the consent agenda,
And there will be another item on the.
above number 7. It's still number 4 because it's got an exhibit.
Okay, but this will be separate.
Yes,
Individual.
we already voted on items 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6.
That's right.
Now we're discussing item 4, which is the one you pulled.
Yes. And
Correct,
then this will
that's
be
this one.
separate issue, separate item.
Yeah, we're already there.
Yeah, and then for this separate issue, we need somebody have motion and then second, and then we discuss.
A motion to what?
To talk,
Right now,
yeah,
right now, it's the consent agenda. He wants to put it down under unfinished business for discussion.
that's
I mean,
right.
we could, but essentially that's where it ends up because we pulled it, right? So, okay,
This is a new item.
go
It's separate
ahead
item.
and, go ahead and move to amend the agenda to include item number 4 between item number 6 and 7, I suppose? Is
Yeah,
that where you're at?
yeah, I
Okay,
think-
super. So moved. Let's call it 6A. We'll make the calendar 6A. I am assuming that that's your motion to make the calendar item number 6A. Is that correct, Lawrence?
Got a motion.
Just say yes.
Dave's got a second.
So the confusion, if I understand correctly, is the consent agenda has been motioned, first and second motion and voted on. It's ended. We're now on a new agenda item. Every time that we're going to vote on an agenda item, it needs a first and a second, and then a discussion, and then a vote.
It's
So
still
he's
number
asking about
4.
the first and second motion to approve the calendar because it's been removed from the consent agenda so that the discussion can continue. Did I understand correctly?
Yeah, that's my, yes.
Okay,
Super.
But when you pull it out of the consent agenda, you don't kill it, you just move it down. So there's already been a request to discuss this separately and a second to discuss it separately. So what you're asking the board chair to do right now is repeat exactly that same thing. We're going to talk about the school calendar and we're going to get a second for it. It's not necessary. It's
But this
already
is a new
there.
item, it's
No,
separate item.
It's just moved down in the list is all that's happened. I mean, you're asking her to repeat it, but you're not correct in your Roberts rules. So she's offering to do it for you, even though it's ridiculous. I don't know a better way to put it.
Super.
I
Yeah,
bet we can do it. I'm sorry, Amy. I
that's
don't
all right.
want to-
No, you're correct. I mean, Lawrence, would you like to move that we add item number 6A to the agenda?
No, it's already on the agenda. We just moved that to here.
Right.
That's right.
Then would
But
you
this
like to
is- this is separate.
discuss the calendar?
Yeah, but this is separate item, right?
Separate from what?
For we were discussing the vote. So we need somebody motion that and then second and then we vote, right?
We're not voting. I assume you had something to say about the calendar, which is why you
Yeah.
pulled it.
And then we
Would you
also vote
like
on
to
it.
share that with us?
Yes. But I want to
Great.
go through the process. This will be the separate item on the.
It is.
Yeah, then we need to have motion and second and then we
No,
vote.
we already did that. You moved, Daisha seconded.
I pull this out from consent agenda, right?
Okay, what would you like to move?
I think you should call somebody, hey, I need motions for this
Well,
item.
that's actually not how Robert's rules work. I'm not supposed to
Okay.
say I need a motion to add this to the agenda. You're supposed to tell me what the motion is, but be that as it may, what would you like to move? Would you like to talk about the calendar? Would you like to,
No, I moved this calendar to be voted.
you want to vote on the calendar
That's what we are doing here.
separately? Okay,
Good.
great. All those in favor of the calendar?
Well, no, you better get a second.
Oh, sure. Daisha, did you second that
No,
or?
I just seconded remove it from the consent agenda. I did not.
Okay,
to-
so we need to have a vote on the calendar. Who would like to move to have a vote on the calendar?
I can move.
Great, Lawrence. Who would like to second voting on the calendar? I will, because we have to vote on the calendar. As written.
Okay.
Yep. All those in,
I would like to make a comment on that. So when we vote on the calendar, I'll not be approving it because the calendar consistently has changed over the last couple of years and we've allowed no community input. So I appreciated Mrs. Creech's comments that teachers have been allowed to give comments, but there's been some significant changes. We've changed from a 2-day fall break to 4-day fall break, which has had significant impact on various families. We switched from having fall break that lined up with TSC to no longer lining it up with TSC, which has caused issues with the students that attend GLCA. And so it has been continued to have changes to our calendar with no community input. So that is why I will be not approving the calendar.
it's almost like that was discussion. Would anyone else like to say anything about the calendar? Rachel, please.
I would really like to thank the calendar committee. This is not easy to juggle everything. And I have heard from them year after year that they have taken into account academic excellence that our students and families feel very strongly about, mental health concerns that we know make periodic breaks really important, and also needs of our families and students. And I really appreciate their leadership in the development of our calendar every year.
Thank you. Anyone else? UA, go ahead.
Appreciate the calendar committee's effort. And just one thing, given that we have a lot of people from different culture in our community, and I agree that it probably is not realistic to have many holidays and no school days to celebrate all kinds of holidays. But I think, yeah, this year is okay. But in the future, it might be helpful to have a list of the holidays that people in our community celebrate, just kind of as a separate page for people to get some, information, knowledge about this diverse community. I think it would be helpful. And so kind of solicited the community input regarding, what are the days you celebrate? And maybe that kind of be a job for the engagement and inclusion, engagement equity director to solicit, to compile those holidays that people celebrate in our community to be more inclusive. I think it would be helpful. It doesn't need to be a no school day and just another page list of the days that people celebrate. I think it would be very helpful.
I would like to point out that if someone's culture or religion celebrates holidays, that those are excused absences from school for every religion. I looked it up and there are more than 2,000 religions. So that's a lot of holidays. Does anyone else have anything? Lawrence.
I think this, I appreciate the calendar committees, also our teachers, administrations, they work together. I understand there's a lot of regulations. It's not easy to make this calendar. But I think because this calendar is kind of for our school, whole school's schedule, there's many people's kind of stakeholders, their schedules depend on our school's calendar. So I would like have a calendar committee which include school administrations, teachers, or some community members, parents, so to review, to work on this calendar thing, so we can have a kind of take all people's voice consideration inside, and then we end up with a good calendar. So I would like to move that our board to refer this proposed 2026-27 school calendar to a calendar committee consisting of representatives of school administrations, teachers, parents, and community members to incorporate device perspectives and also preference regarding holiday timings, breaks, and other calendar features. And the committee will review the draft calendar and make adjustment if need and possible, and post the updated draft on the school's website for 30 days public comments period, and before the final considerations by the school board. Thank you.
Just to be clear, you're moving to refer the calendar, so you're moving to table the calendar and refer it to a committee, is that correct?
I think it's so-called refer to some committees. But yes, it's a kind of table.
Motion to vote on the calendar.
We do. In which case, what does Robert say we must do? Rachel?
I'm not. I kind of want to look at other people in the audience for having the experts, but I believe that he has now made a sub-request, sub-motion.
So now we
have to
need
vote on the sub.
a second and a vote.
on the sub. If that doesn't pass, we move back to the original.
That's right. I think that's the procedure. Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion to refer the calendar to a committee and table it for tonight. Is there a second? Daisha seconds. All those in favor, or wait, I'm sorry, discussion. Would anyone else like to conversate about the calendar at this time? Rachel?
I would just give you the feedback that there's been extensive frustration from our families when the calendar is not available to them as early as possible. So I would be a little concerned about the timing of that.
Okay.
I also do think our educational professionals also, I trust them to do the job.
And they are parents and they are community members as well. So anyone else have anything to say on the topic of tabling only? Tabling and referring to committee. We're not talking about the calendar right now. We're only talking about tabling and referring to a committee. And Rachel brings up the point that people get frustrated when we delay. Go ahead.
we have one more meeting this year, right?
We do.
So, yeah, I personally don't have big issue with the calendar, but I think the process and Lawrence proposed it can be helpful the community feel that they are included. And so given that we do have one more meeting, I think it's helpful to solicit the community feedback. For example, share it with the parent council and just, I totally understand. I really appreciate Mrs. Critch's comments on multiple issues, because I do hear those issues and people, talk about the alignment with Purdue and many other things, but people don't necessarily know all the constraints and we have. So during those communication, then people will understand better why we make it this way. And yeah, people will feel included. Sometimes I really feel this is a communication issue. And if they are not heard, and if the rationales are not communicated with them, they feel they are not heard. And so I feel it'll be helpful, even though eventually maybe the calendar will stay the same way as now, but having that process will be helpful for the community to feel included and engaged.
Okay. Anyone else? Lawrence.
Just quick answer Rachel's concerns. I think these calendars for 2026, 27, I think we have enough time. 1 month, 2 months delay won't be a big difference, I think. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Right now, and listen carefully because I don't want to repeat this. We are voting on the motion to table the calendar and refer it to a committee. All those in favor of tabling the calendar and referring it to a committee, please raise your hand. Mrs. Julian, that's Yui and Lawrence and Daisha. All those opposed to referring the committee? That is Rachel, Brad, Tom, and myself. So that motion fails. Now we will return to the previous motion, which has already been moved and seconded to vote on approving the 26-27 calendar, correct? Great. All those in favor, is there any more discussion? No. Okay. All those in favor of approving the 26-27 school calendar, please indicate with a raised hand. That is 6, with the exception of Mrs. Mumford. All opposed. That is Mrs. Mumford, and the motion passes. All right, let's move on to unfinished business. We had some disagreement last month about the minutes from the September 16th regular Board of Trustees meeting. In our board documents, there were 2 versions of those minutes. There was the version prepared by Mrs. Julian and Tom, and there was the version that was corrected by Lawrence. The first vote we are going to take is on the document prepared by Mrs. Julian and Mr. Schott. I need a motion, please. Moved by Rachel. Is there a second? Seconded by Brad. Only on the topic of the document prepared by Mrs. Julian and Tom. Is there any discussion? Rachel.
I sent this to the rest of the board in email, and I committed to repeat it tonight in the meeting so that it would be public information. Regarding the September board meeting minutes, I will place all suggested, wait a minute. I'm reading Mrs. Julian's. Nobody wants to hear that. I continue to remind the board that minutes are documentation, a recording of actions taken by the board, nothing more, nothing less. They are intentionally not a transcript or exhaustive summary of every word said by each person. The words are not intended to be persuasive, nor should they promote or defend any position, individual member, or group of members. Minutes are neutral. I will say this again at the public meeting.
Thank you. Lawrence.
Because there's some mistakes on this meeting minutes, I would like to have a motion to make some corrections.
Your corrections are number 8. So in the event that this version of the minutes fails to pass a vote, we will move on to your corrections.
But I think that's, if we have motion, I can submit some motion kind of modify the whatever.
Well,
motion we
we've
have.
tried that and it gets extremely confusing as we just demonstrated. So instead, because the minutes that you had access to have been available since roughly September 25th, and they've been available to the entire board, and your suggestions have been available to the entire board, I believe this is the least confusing way of doing it. And because we can't do a this or that vote, we have to do yes or no votes. This seems the reasonable course of action.
Okay, and then just some comments. So basically, I won't support this version of meeting minutes because there's not correctly document what happened during the last meeting before the timestamp 1 hour 52 seconds 44 seconds until 2 hour 9 minutes 10 seconds. Several issues is not correct. For example, the first things we try to pull out the agenda because they have new things. So that's a motion by Ms. Wade, second by me. So that's I second that for pull this item, the agenda from the consent agenda. So, but on this meeting minutes, that seems like I second for vote item. So that's not correct, so should be removed. And also on this meeting minutes, there's three motions, but we only document one motion. So there's another motion basically was made the initial policy 167, which will require Ms. Mumford and Ms. Austin to meet with legal counsel. So this one motion by Ms. Wade, but nobody second that. And,
we have checked with our legal counsel, and small procedural errors such as missing a second don't negate the action of the board. So in that case, there would be no change in outcome. And I'd like to remind everyone that this is why the minutes are neutral and specific only to action taken by the board, because that eliminates all of these arguing points. But go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. But my point, so right now we talk about the meeting minutes faithfully document what happened during the last meeting. So what happened during last meeting is this motion was made by Ms. Wade, but nobody seconded that, and then we vote for that. So that's what happened during the last meeting. And for our Indiana open door law, this motion should be correctly documented on the meeting minutes. And another thing I want to mention is there's a vote take place to adopt revised meeting agenda because that item have been pulled out from the consent agenda. And we vote for that, and nobody motioned that, nobody seconded that. So this motion didn't document on the
Again,
meeting
we
minutes.
checked with counsel, and it doesn't negate the decision of the board, particularly when they're virtually unanimous. But go ahead.
Yeah, I understand that, but another things our legal counsel said this doesn't change the result. We don't know. We didn't follow the procedures. We don't know what's the result. So I won't say if we follow the procedure, we may have some different result. So that's my point for that. And also, so it's for three, four. Another things. That's major things. Another thing is my personal report. There's one item I report on the park committees. They have changed their bylaws. I think that should be documented on our meeting minutes. Thank you. That's all.
Great. Anyone else?
These minutes do not accurately portray motions, seconds, or votes, which is what needs to be included in minutes. It's not a discussion of if it was valid, not valid, what legal counsel says about what needs to be handled. The minutes should show what are motions, seconded, and voted on, and the original proposed minutes inaccurately share that. The revised minutes share it correctly.
I'm sure you'll let everyone know in your monthly publication exactly what you think. Anyone else? Great. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the September 16th, 2024 regular board meeting as prepared by Mrs. Julian and Mr. Schott, please indicate with a raised hand. Mrs. Julian, that is Rachel, Brad, Tom, and myself, all opposed. That is UA, Lawrence, and Dacia. That motion passes, and as such, there's no reason to move on to number 8. So we will move to the next item, which is the Ad Hoc Policy Committee assignment of Policy C200. We created the Ad Hoc Policy Committee. We assigned several policies. Policy C200 got missed, and I would like to go ahead and officially add that to your slate if there is no objection from the Policy Committee.
I believe, I don't want to speak for Lawrence, but we've discussed it and would like to have 200 assigned to us so that we can help break it out for the board's review.
Great, thank you very much. Next item. Not yet.
I think she's doing that at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, we know there's a second one, but
Yep.
thank you for that.
Thank you. Next item is Policy 167, which was the aforementioned meeting between myself and Mrs. Mumford. Mrs. Mumford, I've sent you repeated emails asking if you're planning on attending the meeting tomorrow. Would you like to answer that
Yes, and I
question?
have shared, and legal counsel has even responded to both you and I, that the meeting's set up and scheduled and good to go.
And you'll be there.
Yes, and legal counsel's aware of that, and you have been aware of it also.
Is your lawyer attending?
We will determine that by tomorrow, and as legal counsel said, it's my call on how I decide to handle this, not yours.
I would have appreciated knowing that in advance so we didn't have to bring it up here. Thank you. Next item of business, under new business, is the junior senior high attendance policy, and we're back to Mr. Rogers.
Still here. I am. I told Dr. Greiner I haven't been able to talk at any of these board meetings, and he just put me on here 3 times. No, in all seriousness, so the attendance policy, thanks for letting us do this. It really started with just kind of 1 or 2 little items, which was we had truancy, for example. We had like lunch detention after one of our more severe penalties, and I don't really know where that is. I can find it here in just a minute.
The grade letter drop, yeah. They dropped grade letters or percentages.
Thank you. I don't know if you, so anyway, it started with that. And then the other thing that we had was the state put out a memo in the summer, and it really rattled all these schools on how we could do attendance. And so what we were doing was one of the things on the very first page, if you didn't report, if parents didn't call in, then we started to make you truant. And truant, we all know, it means when you skip school or you don't show up to school when you're not supposed to, or when you're supposed to. And boy, this didn't feel right. And so if we had families that just didn't call in, we have different kinds of families, right, that sometimes parents forget. And that just didn't feel okay. And then truancy is a very, very serious penalty. And it's just basically like 3 things, and we're going to be dealing with that. So I called Kathy Daniluk several times. She's the state attendance officer. Thankfully, she takes my phone calls. It's kind of nice to have connections. And so essentially, she said, Chad, what are you doing? I go, I don't know. This is kind of what we had set up. And she said, you need to think about underprivileged families, so on and so forth. I said, I totally agree, but this is the policy that we have. And so then it became kind of defining excused, which we labeled exempt versus unexcused, unexempt. I forget who mentioned it. I think it was Mrs. Creech mentioned, we have unique families here. We have families that take off for holidays. We have families that take off at times, out of country. And those fall under Indiana code that we feel like that would be enriching experiences, which can then mimic school. So we needed to be able to offer that. So really to the committee, after several conversations, or to the board, after several conversations with Kathy Daniluk, and then the 2 warriors there in the building, Crystal Lee and Shelby Johnson letting us know right away, this is not going to go well. We are penalizing families for just simply missing school when they're sick. Kathy's like, you don't want kids there sick. I know. Well, then you can't keep penalizing them. Okay. So that's the majority of these revisions, was trying to get that right so we were fair for families. The other thing is, I mentioned the DEX report before, our attendance rate affects kind of a rating of what we are as a school. And if we're reporting it inaccurately, then we look like we have a lot of chronic absenteeism. And so we want to be fair, not only to our families, we want to be fair to our school corporation. So that was the other thing that we needed to adjust, was that and she said, you need to be accurate, Chad. So if a parent doesn't call in 48 hours, which is what we would like to clean things up, but we get that phone call maybe 3 or 4 days down the road, fine. We want to be able to accommodate. If we have a family that continues to not call, we're going to call. We're going to work that problem, like I said before. And then if we have families that are just parent calls in and they don't have those doctor notes, sometimes we don't have families that can be able to do that. So when we have those thresholds of days absent where Shelby will meet with those families, that's when we get to have those conversations with them, and then we can make administrative calls if we need to, administrative decisions. So that's kind of where it goes throughout the entire document. The one thing I would say, really on page 1 and 2, this was something new that we found. Skyward, which we pay a lot of money for, can help us out with attendance. So one, we just launched robocalls. I don't know if anybody's gotten those yet, but because we can't accumulate and add up our attendance in a timely manner with so many kids, they try really, really hard. But once we get into this 6th season, it's really difficult to verify all the students that are absent. And at 10 o'clock, Skyward's going to send out a robocall, because we want families to know if I sent my kid to school in a car and they haven't been there by 10 o'clock. We want them to know. So that helps us. And then it also helps us at the end of the day. A student, let's say, skips out of school, leaves school, and they're absent 6th, 7th, 8th period or something like that. Again, sometimes it's difficult for us to add all that up at the end of the day. Call goes out at the end of the day. So I think that's great. And then we also found that families can actually report their own absences. They can go into Skyward. And now Skyward is a little complicated, so it gives you a page worth of steps. But this is something we found other schools in the area that use. And so if I know my son's got a doctor's appointment or whatever 3 days from now, or wakes up with a fever, I can go into Skyward just like I check grades, and I can put my absent in, and that helps us accumulate who's in and who's not in. Skyward automatically sends you, okay, this is going to be pending. We're going to let you know, which is also good, because when you email or you go to a Google form, you don't get confirmation that we got it until we put it into Skyward. So this is quicker for you as well. And then there's no approval for it. Lawrence, I know you asked that question earlier. We don't approve it. I mean, Skyward's just letting you know, and then we go in and quote unquote verify that and change it to the correct code, whether that's a parent absent or whether that's a doctor's absent. So that was just something new that we found that we wanted to add in. And I'm not going to lie, we are going to go back through this with a fine-tooth comb as we get to the new, actually once we get to the approval of the new agenda, or excuse me, the new policy, the new student handbook. That's what I'm trying to say. But we feel like this is much better and much more fair for families the way we have it, where we're not penalizing people for absences just because they can't get to a doctor. We're not penalizing students because mom or dad didn't call in. And we are trying to be flexible with the unique asks from our community. Okay? Questions as I take a drink.
When will that go live? Because I just checked again and it's not on Skyward right now. Is that for
when does this go live?
When does the Skyward, you can say your kid is absent on Skyward, then go live? Or is it already there?
I think it's already there.
Is it already there?
So I think you can go program. Brandon?
It's
Brandon says it's not turned on. I go with Brandon.
Okay,
Okay.
I like that. But we're planning this for fall. Or would it
We want to
start
be able to
pilot?
provide the option as soon as we can.
Okay.
And then really move to pushing this out and really creating information, even maybe with a video, to launch for next year.
Oh,
So
that's a
that
good idea.
really we can move more families to this. It just makes it so much easier for everybody
Mm-hmm.
and makes us do our attendance even quicker.
I think we should do a TikTok with like a dance.
I know my lane, and that's not it.
All right.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's Crystal Lee and Shelby Johnson bringing it to our attention, just FYI.
Thank you for bringing the parent council. You brought this to parent council, got their feedback and input, so I know parents were really appreciative.
Okay, thank you. And that was that's a small part. That was at the beginning stages, and then it was like a rabbit hole once we got going. Okay.
I did have a question for dollars. Because in the past, I didn't know how I was going to handle it in the future. If students are absent for lunch,
Okay. I think I got it there at the very, very end, but I'm not sure. But it's in there. I know it's in there, but I'll tell you. So it's unique for us. I thought so. But I can explain it. So, when they have lunch, it's actually a period. And so we will mark them absent because we need to know if they're in the building. But then that absent will not be filed with the state. So therefore, it's not going to count as absence. That was another thing we had to clean up. It won't count for you, so you're not going to accumulate that. Now, we're working, we may have some bugs there, but we just communicate. Again, Mrs. Johnson just communicates with families. The one wrinkle to that, sorry, high schoolers that might be listening, and I know they're not, we're going to have parents come in and physically get their kid. If not, I'll have 700 people calling in that they're going to go have lunch with their mom or dad, and they're going to go to McDonald's. We don't want the open campus again. So if I'm a parent and I'm going to take my kid out to lunch, or they're going to go to my house, I need to come in and sign them out so we know they're going with you, and then they can go home, eat, whatever.
previously, I wasn't aware that was an issue,
What was an issue?
that students were sneaking away with permission.
Yes. Well, I haven't had an issue really here, but I'm just telling you, if we say you're allowed to go home and there's no verification of that, then I'll have every high schooler calling in. That's my experience from other places.
Okay, so, because I have high schoolers.
Okay.
I have checked them out for lunch in the past.
Okay.
And I've done it like I do any other time
That's-
period. And so I was just wondering why.
I think because we're going to make it public, like right now, we're going to make this more like this is the way we'll do it, and it won't count against you. And so in order to accommodate that, I got to make sure that I don't have a lot of kids checking out for lunch.
Okay, so parents have to come in, but then it's not, because we had students that were having to get detention if they had lunch absence.
That's what we're going to go away with.
There'll be no consequences
No.
with lunch. And
No.
I see in the policy you did put, it doesn't affect practices, co-curricular activities.
Where are you at, by the way? Help me out.
Page 7, it says attendance and participation.
Okay.
It says students who do not attend at least 5 periods, lunch does not count.
Correct.
Cannot participate in practices. So it's clarifying that lunch doesn't have an influence on that, which is good.
And Daisha, I really thought, and I'm just trying to find it somewhere in there. I thought it was towards the end, to be honest. But if not, I can. Nope, that's tardies. You're right. It's right there on the attendance for lunch. But I'm going to be good on my word. How about that? I know it's not going to count for state reporting, which means it's not going to count for our total that we build up.
And
Okay.
won't count for detention, I think, is what.
Correct. No.
is what
And that's what we,
had
yes, that's
issues
what we
with
ran
in the
into. And
past.
again, we're like, this isn't right. This isn't fair.
Okay, good.
But because our policy said that, we had to follow it. But just like anything, the minute I sit down, I know I'll find it. But that's going to be our intent.
Perfect.
Okay. And I know Mrs. Johnson's already worked with a handful of families on that, and it's going really, really well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just thank you for you make these things and also answer my so many questions. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yue.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for making the changes and to streamline the attendance report. And I think it will be very helpful. And so I heard some feedback from the community regarding the flexibility of ours for allowing students to be absent from to have the excuse to be absent. For example, some kids have to attend a conference and to present their research. Some kids have to go to elsewhere to compete in piano competition, something like that. Right. So all these will be allowed, right? Will not be counted towards.
So there's a process for it. We would like you to give us a heads up, a couple of weeks. Sometimes families can't do that. Maybe a child just won something and they got to go advance again, right? But there's a form on the website for parents to fill that out. And then with that, we're asking you what this is and how you think it's an enriching educational experience. Just explain that to us. And then we have the ability to, authorize that, say yes, say no. It doesn't mean they can't go. Parent can still check their kid out, but that'd be now a parent approved absence as opposed to the exempt one. Does that make sense?
Okay, so means that will not take up the total allowed
if
absence.
we approve it, yes.
Okay.
If we approve it. And I'm telling you that we're really trying to understand and relate to, again, the uniqueness of our community. Or I'll give you another example. I had a student in my previous school. He raced cars. He made $30,000. I'm thinking that that's an educational experience because that's going to be what maybe he's going to do in his future. So it's not necessarily academics per se, but it's definitely connecting to his ability to be employed. So absolutely. So stay up on your studies, stay up on your work. Don't miss other extra days. And we allowed it per Indiana code.
Yes, that's very exciting actually, because I heard people complain about, because of these extra curriculum activities, and the one kid who plays piano have to move to TSC. And another one said,
tell them to come back.
So another one said, TSC allow them to actually even go home and do extra maths to prepare for the math competition. So, but we follow the same rule somehow. We said, we are rigorous, but sometimes it's...
Tell these people to call me.
Okay.
All right?
Great.
All these people, tell them to call me. I'll talk with anybody.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's really great news. Very exciting. And because people feel, we are rigorous, that's great, but sometimes rigid. And so, yeah.
I think we've got a lot of things that we've addressed. Yes.
Thank you.
I just want to point out to my fellow board members that this is an example of the building administrator evaluating a process and doing his job as the administrator to determine what's best for his schools. We as a board have not directed him to do that anyway. He's just done the job that needs to be done and doesn't require our direction to do that.
Okay, let's.
Dr. Yin, tip is at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Purdue plays Yale. I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm not. I'm really serious, but keep going.
Because you left soon after you made the other presentation, I would really like to thank you for the math placement issue. And that has been an issue for several years. And I'm so happy that the problem.
We're working on it. We're not there. We're not done, but we are working on it. And I've already met, as you know, I've met with several families in the summer. I didn't even have furniture in my office yet, and I was meeting with them. So thank you.
And we will have a kind of written policy, right, in the future.
We'll have it transparent so that everybody will hopefully see it. I'm not going to guarantee that everybody's going to understand. But again, if they don't, call me.
Great.
Yeah, send them right to me.
Yeah, parents are so happy that the problem was solved.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, we got 22 minutes to get you to the sports bar. I need a motion, please, regarding...
I'm going to Mackey. I'm not going to a sports
you're going to Mackey? Well, crap. Where are you going to park? I need a motion regarding the attendance policy, please. Daisha? Move to approve by Dacia, seconded by Brad. All those in favor? That is everyone.
That is unanimous.
Thank you. Yay.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, go cheer for us too. It sounds like. Who knew? Okay, next item is number 10, which is policy D175. Rachel, would you like to?
Sure. So, again, well, obviously Lawrence may have comments on this as well, but we met as a policy committee and reviewed the policies the 5 policies that you released to us. This particular policy is a one-to-one crosswalk to our current policy with very few changes. So we felt this was one that the board could fairly easily review and have adequate information to place a vote on tonight.
Great. Lawrence, do you have anything to add?
I think what Rachel said is pretty much
Great.
what we have agreed on. Yeah.
Thank you. In that case, I need a motion, please. Moved by Tom, seconded by Rachel. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to actually table this. All information has not been shared with all board members. There were questions that were brought up at the committee meeting that was going to be asked to legal counsel. And when it was shared with the board that this would be on the agenda, I had asked to have the board informed of what legal counsel's input was on this policy because I do have some concerns, and was told that that information would be coming to the board and yet has not been shared.
Rachel.
There were no questions sent to legal counsel regarding policy D175. All of the questions were related to other policies, not to this policy. Those were just received, and as I spoke with Lawrence before the meeting, I'll be kind of shoving all that into our update, and then when we meet again, we'll be able to go through those. But there were no questions related to 175 that went to legal.
I think we have, or maybe Robert ask a question regarding this policy.
I don't think so.
Yeah, can you double? I don't have a computer. I think we have some question regarding these issues, regarding how to distinguish between policies and also administration guidance, something like that, or maybe.
I am looking at.
I don't see any.
And there are not, 175 was the only one that was clean of any questions.
The document we sent forward said it is a very simple crosswalk, one-to-one, and has very similar language. We did not feel there would need to be much discussion related to this policy and that the board likely has adequate information to vote.
So at the committee meeting, it was shared, Lawrence was had asked that legal counsel be asked about administrative guidelines, best practices versus why it's a policy. And it had been stated at the committee meeting that that would be sent to legal counsel to get their input. And so nothing has been shared with board about that.
So in general, that was a conversation that affected all of these. Lawrence and we had a conversation about, yes, the board would benefit from a more broad understanding of the distinction between policy and administrative guidelines, but that does not affect this particular policy. So I mean, as an observer to the policy committee, when you came and watched this meeting take place, you're just that, an observer of it. But I mean, we had a fairly clear agreement that this is a crosswalk. It really is a crosswalk directly from one policy to the other. There are very few words that are different. I don't know, perhaps Lawrence feels differently, but I look at this and feel very comfortable that the board ought to be able to look at it and have all information they need to vote.
Yeah, I just checked the email. They say we have some question, policy D175.
What email are you looking at, please?
I think that email back from our CCHA attorneys, and the question is regarding.
Can I have a date, please?
I don't have a date here.
It's on the email, generally.
Huh?
Isn't it on the email?
Yeah, email.
Okay.
And
Can I have the date of the email so that I can look at what you're looking at, please?
I cannot find that. I just see this one, this question. They say, why is this policy? Why this is a policy and not administrative guidance? I think that's our question.
That was a general question
yeah,
about all of the policies.
Yeah, but I think
here's where I mean, if you'll excuse me, I'll just
Please.
throw this out there. Okay, so just so that everybody in the board understands it, Amy asked to give the report about the policy committee at the end. When we give reports, she's trying to follow the format and guidelines, but I'll hop ahead and say that the policy committee had 5 policies given to us, released to us by the board chair. We reviewed all 5. We made determinations about each of those policies. I sent a report back to our board chair, and also Lawrence obviously was involved in that. Board chair sent those questions on to legal. That will be our process going forward. We just got that response back. And so that now needs to be incorporated, but it's on the agenda as an item for vote at this point. And so board members, we have a second and we have a motion. And so the question is, do you have the information that you need to vote on policy D175, yes or no? If you don't, I believe Mrs. Mumford had asked for a table, I don't know if that was a motion or not.
It was.
Okay, so if she has a second, then we could take a vote on a table. If that clears, then we can table it, then you can choose to table it. That's the process that would happen.
Okay, so Mrs. Mumford has moved to table. Is there a second?
Yeah, I can second.
Seconded by Lawrence. Any discussion about tabling?
Yes, so I am tabling this for 2 reasons. First off is we have not been given all information as was stated. The second reason is this is a policy that restricts interactions between staff and school board members. And I don't feel like is an appropriate policy to have in place. Is more of a best practice than a policy. So that's why I'm moving to table it until we get more information about the policy.
And can I ask what you're basing that opinion on if it's not the recommendation of Neola, which wrote the previous policy, or the current council, which has recommended this current policy?
So actually the previous policy was adjusted by our school board. Neola has it that it said staff is supposed to communicate through the superintendent with board members on official business. And our school board chose to change Neola's policy to just state in general. They removed that official. And so this policy is mirroring that. And I do not agree that we should be making it that our staff feels uncomfortable to interact with board members. There should be a clear chain of command. This is definitely best practice, should be involved in training, that if a staff member were to come to a board member, the board member should send it back to the appropriate chain of command, but there should be no policy in place which limits this communication. So that is where that comes from.
Okay, anyone else? Great, so we are voting right now on whether or not to table this policy D175. All those in favor of tabling D175, please indicate with a raised hand. Mrs. Julian, that is Daisha, Lawrence, and UA. All those opposed to tabling 175, that is Rachel, Brad, Tom, and myself, so that motion fails. We will return to the previous motion, which was moved by Tom and seconded by Rachel. So now we're back on discussion of policy D175. Anything else? Of course.
So I learned about this policy when I start to serve on the board. And so since then, I felt as a board member, I should refrain myself from communicating with staff members. So yeah, that's what I understand. But actually, given what Disha said, I wonder whether this is a common practice elsewhere as well. Just like for anyone who worked in other districts have that experience, this is a common practice. Frankly, I haven't studied that. I don't know whether this is a West Side policy or it's a common practice people all should follow. I just wonder in general.
I'm not seeing any volunteers to compare our policies with that of other schools, but I would guess that because it came from 2 completely independent organizations that do this as a service to other school boards, that it's probably not unusual.
Yeah, personally, I just feel it's a kind of a counterintuitive to me, frankly, because I feel I would like to hear everybody's input, including teachers, but I feel that channel is kind of shut down to me. I don't know what teachers think they probably don't know what I think either. So yeah, I feel there's some tension there, and but I don't know how to solve the problem. And we have policy, they're forbidden us actually from communicating with the teachers. They cannot communicate with us. I don't know. I'm new to this whole thing. I mean, still for the, because I again didn't grow up in this.
Okay, Rachel?
So,
Yeah, so I want to point out to everybody on the board that the policy has 3 points, A, B, and C. The first one is that staff shall submit all official communications, meaning expressions made within a staff member's professional capacity, to the board or its committees through the superintendent. So it does establish, it talks about chain of command. I think where philosophically the dispute that I am hearing when, for example, UA states that teachers don't know what she thinks. This is really approached in the third section that deals with everybody having a keen interest in the schools and that informal discussion is appropriate. But this is the line where there seems to be some confusion. However, since board members have no special authority except when they are convened at a legal meeting of the board or vested with special authority by board action, discussions between staff and board members regarding confidential subjects, including but not limited to personnel grievances and problems, student due process, contract negotiations, and litigation, will be considered unethical conduct. The reason for that is because those expose us to liability. And so it's very cut and dried that board members don't have authority except for when we gather in these meetings. And this policy reinforces that. That is why it is necessary. Because it would be entirely inappropriate for me, for example, to pick up the phone and call Mrs. Delaney and direct her on how to run the day-to-day operations of our schools. And if she had questions about how to do that task, I'm so sorry you're sitting in the front row, she should, it would be, she should contact the superintendent and run that through the normal processes. So this policy is exactly stating what would be appropriate communication. It is extremely similar to what already is in place.
Thank you for that very succinct explanation. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Great. All those in favor of approving policy D175, please indicate with a raised hand. Mrs. Julian, that's Lawrence, Rachel, Brad, Tom, and myself. All opposed, please raise your hand. That is Daisha. Any abstention? That is UA. Got it? Cool. Thank you. All right, let's talk about pickleball. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Dr. Greiner.
So you have the MOU in front of you on the agenda, and it is on the agenda tonight as something to discuss. There will be no vote this evening. We've worked with the city to secure $750,000 for the tennis court project, as you're aware. The agreement would be that 4 of the courts would be striped for tennis and pickleball. And we've spoken with Mr. Stroh, who's also here, and he's worked closely with our coaches. This should not interfere with tennis, given the MOU states that our students and tennis will remain the priority. And again, this is on the agenda for discussion only this evening.
Okie doke. Mrs. Cronk, do you have anything to add? Nope. Okay, great.
Well, I would say thank you for the
Oh,
interest in
absolutely.
partnering with
Thank
us.
you. That's 100%. Okay, let us discuss tennis, something of which I know very little. Rachel.
So I am a very poor tennis player, as evidenced by my high school career here at West Lafayette in tennis. I also enjoy the periodic game of pickleball. So there's my disclaimer. To me, it is very, I'm very grateful to the collaboration with the city. $750,000 seems a small price to pay for 4 pickleball courts to be lined. I very much appreciate the priority placed on our students in teams and those extracurriculars. I assume that also extends to PE. I'm guessing that also extends to physical education. I
I just appreciate the collaboration. I understand that members of our community who are players and who use the court socially have had a lot of feedback to give us about it. But the most compelling argument I have heard is what you just stated about the coaches, both saying that this is appropriate use and they're comfortable with it. Certainly the success of our program is attributed to families who support their players, but also to coaches who lead our programs. And so I appreciate them weighing in on the debate.
Thanks. Tom?
Very comfortable that Joel spoke with the coaches. That answers some questions for me.
Okay. Anyone else?
Very comforting that Joel has spoken with the coaches and they're in agreement with this. So.
Anything else that anyone wants to share? Lawrence?
I have a quick question. I really appreciate the redevelopment committee. They will share some, they will contribute their, share some costs with us. So I'm just wondering, there are 750,000 contributions. Is that bundled with this requirement we have to share the tennis court with the pickleball?
Pickleball lining, correct.
So that's condition of their
That's correct.
contribution. Okay,
Yes.
okay, just to make sure I understand that. Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yue?
Is it possible to resurface the tennis court here and convert them into the pickleball instead of the 10 we have? Because really, as Gabby said, there's already a shortage there. And we all know, we received so many parents opposition to align to convert for tennis court into pickleball courts. So I wonder, by any chance we can convert the tennis court
So
here.
if we were going to do that, the agreement with the city is pickleball. So that we would stripe. So we would no longer then have the $750,000 going toward the tennis courts, but rather we would be looking for another location. And what I would suggest to that is you as a board haven't determined yet what we're going to do with the Happy Hollow site. So you wouldn't want to resurface something until it's decided what this site is going to look like. But I will also say, I will add to that if the city were to get into an agreement of making pickleball courts here, they would be pickleball courts, and that is not in our curriculum. And at that point, the school we would not be paying for any of it. And what I mean by that, in our agreement, we're going to pay for upkeep for the tennis courts, even the ones that have both tennis and pickleball striping. But if the city were to get into an agreement with us to use or lease a portion of that property in a way that they do the pool, the school would not be paying any money toward it. The partnership would be those courts. It wouldn't be any kind of upkeep.
Yeah, because it does sound. Yeah, I do look up. I'm not familiar with pickleball. When we received those concerns, I looked them up online. I do find a lot of complaints about the sound. And given that those tennis courts are so close to the kids in Willis, and they basically, their playground is right there. If they keep hearing the bang 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 sound, and also the classrooms, even your office is quite close, and the sound can be loud. If you check online on YouTube, there are many complaints, like a home association plus, and the neighborhood just next to it. And I feel, it might be, we needed to consider it more. I appreciated the city's generosity to share the cost, but frankly, people in the city play tennis too. And so we have a lot of people playing tennis on our court, not only students, parents, but also other people. So it's not like we are not sharing it with the city if we only have the tennis. It's just either they come to play tennis or play pickleball. In fact, even if right now we don't have the lines for pickleball, people play pickleball anyway on the tennis courts. So it's not, but if we convert officially tennis courts to that you use, and probably more people will play there very routinely and because the pickleball is popular, and it's more and more popular, then you will constantly have people playing there during any time, probably. So it can be a concern. And but if a city have to bundle that cost sharing with the pickleball lines, then we alternatively we can consider some other ways to fund the tennis court. For example, call for donation and do the naming right and many other ways. But we need to be careful about this, because once we put the lines on it, those tennis court cannot be official tennis court because those lines are confusing for real players.
Mr. Strode, did you have a plan as far as the which courts would be used for high school tennis? As I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I thought I heard.
I mean, I guess they would all 10 be used for high school tennis.
But
specifically for pickleball, the 4 southernmost courts
which
would
is
be dual
closest to
stripe,
Cumberland.
closest to Cumberland. That makes the parking a little bit easier for community members and probably less invasive to the school day and school parking a little bit further away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You think is manageable, right?
Yeah, I mean, where we're at right now, we have tennis courts that are in poor shape. And this is a creative way between, the central office administration, led by Dr. Greiner, to get into a partnership with the city to do something really great for the kids and really great for the community. And it's give and take both sides, right? There's a tennis community that is not thrilled about 4 pickleball courts. There's a pickleball community that would like 10 courts and line the other direction and turn it into 20 courts of pickleball. So I think a lot of thought and care has gone into the plan to appease both sides and do the best we can and ultimately provide something really great for the community and the tennis program.
So you think it won't be hurt too much, right?
No, I think it's a plan in place that will work for both parties.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Oates, would you like to share with us also? Thank you, Mr. Strode.
My name is Larry Oates. I'm the president of the West Lafayette Redevelopment Commission. And first and foremost, I want to thank you as being a school board that gets along with the city that they're in. And that is not the case across the United States, and let alone in the state of Indiana. There's many places where school boards and cities don't get along, and it makes for a very, very bad situation in those. And over the years of us getting along, there's been lots of projects that the city has done to kind of answer the questions that were alluded to earlier that, we're going to get this for free. And that's because of the partnership that we've had with the schools. The full-time police resource officer that sits at Willis is paid for out of the city budget completely. At one point, and I think it was 2008, and I'm going back to my early days of being on the Redevelopment Commission, we came up with a plan to loan the West Lafayette Community School Corporation $500,000 when there was a property tax snafu, and your property tax draw wasn't able to come in. And that $500,000 was for the ability to pay your teachers during that time period. And the Redevelopment Commission came forth and stepped up took care of that. Cumberland School parking lot and entrance was all paid for by the city of West Lafayette. When we redid Cumberland Avenue, we went in and redid all of that area of the school for you. When Willis was being built, there was a significant amount of money coming out of my budget to put in the sidewalks and the crosswalks and everything else that with the safety signals that were right there in front of the school corporation. And most importantly, and it probably the thing that has the most bearing upon what you're discussing tonight is Leslie Field. I go back to 2010. In fact, in September of 2010, there was a memorandum of understanding that was signed by the school corporation, the Parks Department, and the Redevelopment Commission, where we funded the $250,000 out of the Redevelopment Commission to redo the track down there, around there. And our requirement at that time with that is, if you'll recall back in the day, there was an 8-foot fence all the way around the track that prevented the public from being able to get in and use the track. And our requirement was that we would do the track, but we would want it open for the public as part of the fitness trail that we were proposing within West Lafayette. That was 14 years ago. And I think that the terminology resounding success would be how the public would look at the Leslie Field track after all of these years. And I think that the setup that we have with the tennis courts also in Cumberland is going to fall into that same category. Yes, it's something new. Yes, it's different. Yes, it's change, and change is hard. It always is hard. But you know, what we're trying to do is make sure that the public has access to the amenities that the public needs. Because when it comes down to it, it's about us all supporting the quality of life within this community. The school corporation and your educational, we saw the numbers up here on the screen tonight of the phenomenal job that you folks are doing within the community, and that's quality of life. The recreational activities that we can provide within the community are also quality of life. And by being able to partner between the two of them, and think about this, every one of your taxpayers is my taxpayer, right? You know, not all of my taxpayers are your taxpayers, but every one of yours is my taxpayer, because I have a larger boundary than you do with the Redevelopment Commission. But what we're doing is we're working together and making an amenity available to all of those taxpayers, and not just looking at one side of it or the other and saying, oh, this is only for tennis or only for pickleball. But we came to a creative solution to be able to put both of those groups together in one time. It fills a hole in your budget. It makes the project possible. And at the end of the day, that's what allows our kids to excel in their educational opportunities. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And we are extremely grateful also for that partnership. And I really appreciate, that was really moving. Thank you. Anyone else have, Rachel, please.
I wanted to say there was one other patron that we heard from that had a question, a concern about the courts potentially being locked at some point in time, and the relationship with the city would mean that those tennis courts would remain open to the public 24/7 and would not be locked. And so I wanted to make sure that that was stated publicly, and that everybody was aware of that.
Anything else? Daisha?
So I think this is great. I appreciate the funding, the partnership, and I'm just trying to sort through. We did receive a significant number of patrons who have emailed the board with concerns. So last month we heard someone in support of the pickleball, but we've heard tons against it.
Can we clarify times? I'm sorry.
It was 5.
Oh, 5, sorry. I'm not trying to exaggerate at all. I apologize. Thank you for correcting me, Tom. 5 was sent to the board in the last 2 days. And so I just want to understand, because I totally agree. I think what we're trying to do is please both sides of the community. Is in the MOU, so currently it says that West Lafayette can set hours and lock it if they choose to, that we're not being restricted. So that was a comment that was just said that we are not allowed to restrict it, but the MOU is saying that we have that control. We're not intending to restrict it, if I understand correctly, but our hands aren't tied.
Correct.
If we had to do it for teams, is that correct?
It says for maintenance, other purposes, it's in our control.
Yes.
But my understanding, asking the question from patrons, is the intent is not to restrict it at any point.
The intent is not to restrict it, but we have the ability, like, let's say that the noise was a factor and we wanted to restrict it to certain hours.
It's an option.
That's correct. If there was maintenance that had to be done, like we go to resurface it at some point in the future, or we do something with the nets, we would have to close it to the public during that time of maintenance. So that does make sense.
In the MOU, it says up to 4 courts. Does that mean that number is flexible, or does that mean it's 4 courts or nothing? Was a question that was asked.
We kind of left it on the up to 4 courts, because that's the amount that we need to have as far as the Redevelopment Commission being able to be in that area. If you want to do 6 or 8, we're right behind you on it, and we'll be happy to support
so maybe I
that
just
too.
misread it. It was a minimum of 4 courts to get the money, is the way that's read.
Exactly.
No, that's helpful. And then the other question that came up a couple times was about the temporary pickleball nets and storage bins and kind of how that logistic is going to work.
Well, I think that originally that I believe that the nets are going to be used, the same nets as the tennis courts. Originally, we kind of left it all kind of encompassing. I think at this point, there won't have to be any storage bins and there won't have to be any nets. In fact, there was some concern about leaving the storage bins on the court surface itself. And consequently, that it's not something that we're going to require.
Okay. So this will be removed from the MOU. There won't be provided nets or what is?
We will be happy to have that removed. I mean, we'll agree to that without any problem. So, whatever you want. What we tried to do is put together a draft agreement so that we'd start off of it. And we based it on the same type of an agreement that we have for Leslie Field. And so, we're not trying to be overbearing. We're not trying to overreach. What we're trying to do is truly have a partnership here and work together and make it happen for the community.
No, this has been helpful, like I said, as we've gotten questions and stuff, so I appreciate it. And then I actually have some questions for Mr. Strode, just because it's come up now, is kind of how does this work when the posts are in place and our tennis nets are up?
Yes.
Is it easy for someone to just take down our nets and put up their own pickleball nets? Because those nets aren't the same, or
Yeah, so there was a question over the weekend and responded today. And actually, I followed up with maintenance because it's not something I do. When they remove the nets for the winter, typically we leave 2 up each year and they stay up the whole winter in case we get a nice day. But then each year those nets pretty much get destroyed after being up that long. And so the department buys a couple each year to replace those. That's normal anyways, no complaint from me. But when they remove the nets on the other 8 courts, essentially what they do, they take the tension off the nets, and then at the same time, they pull those 2 posts up and keep the net on those 2 posts and then put those in storage. So is it possible for maintenance to do it differently? Yes. It'd be more work for maintenance. I mean, that'd be something if Dr. Greiner, the board wanted to weigh in and have maintenance do things differently to allow community members to bring their own nets. That would be something above me. I wouldn't ask that of maintenance, but that's certainly something we could do. But that's the process they do.
Okay, so not in regard to winter, but during the school year, when we have, during the nice weather, when we have the nets and the poles up, is it easy for someone to undo those nets and put up their own nets? Or is it not going to be an issue?
I mean, we have our own nets up.
Right, well, the question was, pickleball nets are a little bit different. So will someone go in and try to take down our nets to put up their own nets? Do you know how easy that is?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I would certainly say that that's not something we would like to have happen. But I don't know a lot about pickleball, but like you, I've heard that that tennis players are saying true pickleball players won't love the taller nets.
Take you off the hot spot. Okay. I actually have an expert with me, so let's talk about this. I have the park superintendent, Kathy Lozano, but my understanding is, after talking with her just now, is that our intention would be to stripe them sideways, so the 4 courts would actually be on 2 courts total, and that way your tennis net stays in the center. You don't have to take it down or put it up or anything like that. And that's where the storage bins come in. But those storage bins can be put on the outside of the fenced areas if we need to.
So what you're saying is, your understanding is we're only using 2 tennis courts to put 4 courts.
That's correct.
Which my understanding is it's different, that's not what our tennis team wants. That they're super worried about that. Is that issue, is my understanding.
Let's let Jill speak to that. I don't want to misspeak.
No, I guess what my understanding has been, it would be 4 courts lined the same north-south direction of the current tennis courts.
As the current one, so it'd be 4 courts for pickleball.
Like we've heard from some of the tennis community, if you can picture those courts, if we were to line them east and west, there would be twice as many lines, which could affect the tennis game.
Okay, so 4 courts.
But I mean, that's different from what he just shared.
We can do it either way, whatever makes it easier.
Okay, I mean, I just know from.
I mean, it's 2, I would agree with you, it's 2 very different things, and certainly we'd want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Before we vote on a final agreement, we'll get all of that ironed out, and we'll give the board and therefore the public time to consider north, south, east, or west, or vertical or horizontal or diagonal, or however lines need to go in order to make the maximum number of people.
And if it went from four down to two, your coaches may feel differently. So I'd like to have us talk and have us include you and your coaches.
Yeah, I think everyone sitting down together and bringing back an agreement that works for all parties is the best way. Okay.
Sure. For you to, when you figure out the details, so are we talking about converting 4 tennis courts into 8 pickleball, right? Are we doing that? Because I look at, I check the size, the pickleball actually is quite small. It's 20 by 44 feet, and tennis is 60 by 120 feet long.
I think what we were thinking was 4 tennis courts would have a total of 4 pickleball courts.
Oh, just
and then they've presented a possibility of 2 tennis courts having 4 pickleball courts.
Yes. Wow.
Oh.
I just
That's
Googled,
huge.
and it says you can actually fit up to 4 pickleball courts on one tennis court, which would be so many pickles.
No.
Okay, clearly there's some discussion.
Well, and if we'll bring the coaches in, because from talking to some tennis players, that was the worry, is if I mean, I appreciate the offer of 2 courts because that would make them happier. But my understanding is the damage from the temporary ones, to put it that way, is what was shared. And when they heard it was going to be 1 court, 1 pickleball, the tennis players themselves were much happier, is my understanding. So I appreciate that all of you will meet with the coaches, because they will know
Absolutely.
what is the best.
Okay, that's logistical. Sure. Okay, well, again, we really appreciate your partnership and your being here so late to answer all these questions. So can we move forward to the GEO bonds? That is item number 12 on our agenda, and that goes to you.
All right, tonight is the last step for the board in the general obligation bond process. This evening, you will hold an additional appropriation hearing for the public to give comment on the additional appropriation of bond proceeds in the school corporation's accounts. The notice of additional appropriation hearing was published as legally required, and the proof of that publication is included in your board packets. Please approve the proof of publication as it is submitted to be a part of the minutes for tonight, please.
You have heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion to approve the proof of publication? Moved by Rachel. Do I have a second? Seconded by Brad. Any discussion? Great. All in favor of approving the proof of publication, please indicate with a raised hand. That is everyone, Mrs. Julian. We will now open the additional appropriation hearing for public comments. There are no public comments, so the hearing is now closed. Oh, golly.
Okay, now that the hearing is closed, I ask that you please approve the additional appropriation resolution as submitted.
You've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion to approve? Okay, Tom has moved, seconded by Brad. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate with a raised hand. That is everyone again, Mrs. Julian. And back to you.
Okay, and finally this evening, please approve the final bond resolution as submitted, which is the last step for the entire board as part of this process.
You've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion to approve the final bond resolution? Moved by Rachel, seconded by Lawrence. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate with a raised hand. That is everyone again, Mrs. Julian.
Thank you, Ms. Herndon, for being here. If anybody has any questions, she did graciously show up this
We'll get you the
evening.
microphone if we need, but great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're on Superintendent and CFO reports. Dr. Greiner.
Thank you. So I'd like to share that, as you know, October and February are when ADM is certified. And our certified ADM for October is 2,185 students. This does not include the TSC students, which is a part of our TSC agreement. There are currently 151 students which are receiving educational services with West Lafayette Community School Corporation from TSC, in addition to the 2,185 students of our own. Current class sizes, kindergarten through 6th grade averages. Kindergarten averages 18 to 21, first grade 20 to 22. second grade 21 to 22, third grade 20 to 23, fourth grade 21 to 22, fifth grade 22 to 24, and sixth grade 21 to 23. I'd also like to congratulate again our Blue Ribbon Elementary School. We've got Mrs. Delaney out there in the
She's
audience.
wearing blue tonight.
She sure is. The Blue Ribbon ceremony was this past week in Washington, D.C., and each school was able to send representatives, including the principal, a teacher, and the superintendent. Mrs. Delaney, Mrs. Bernhardt, and I attended. The event was also streamed live, and several of the students were able to watch that, and we saw cheering. Yeah, and I think you probably tweeted that and put it on social media. Quite exciting to see, so you might want to check that out. And then I want to say, I want to add that she's very excited to present next month at the December board meeting. Mrs. Delaney will be here. Anyone else be with you? Okay, but definitely Mrs. Delaney, and she'll be presenting some of those experiences. Congratulations also to Mrs. Austin and Dr. Yin for your re-election to serve on our board. Congratulations also to Dr. Purpura and Mr. Lyle on your election to the board beginning in January. And I want to thank Mr. Marley and Mr. Schott for your service to the board. You will be greatly missed beginning in January. And finally, I'd like to thank Mrs. Coliance and Mr. Scott for their interest in running on the board. Their interest in serving in our community is much appreciated as well. That's my report.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Todd?
Claims for the period of October 3rd to November 6th total $4,445,608, including regular corporation expenses and the Wabash Valley Education Center expenses. Of this amount, $3,519,862.50 were paid towards wages, salaries, and benefits. I've also provided the final fund report for September of 2024 in your board packets. Total cash on hand in all funds was $21,002,718, and the education fund had a cash balance of $5,882,223. A preliminary fund report for October is also included in your board packet, but we have not yet finished reconciling that month, so that will come next month. And we are getting ready to start year end very soon here, so it'll be fun.
Always is. All right. As far as board reports, let's go ahead and start with you, Daisha.
Foundation just finished their fall grants, and congratulations to our own Mr. Rowe. He received a grant titled STEM Coding with Tinkerworks Tech-a-Sketch. So fourth grade teacher, super excited. There'll be a celebration on Thursday, November 21st from 5 to 6:30 at Ripple and Company. All are invited. And that's everything.
Thank you. Lawrence?
For me, I attended there's a SBA employee discharge webinar. It's kind of trainings, understand better about the personnel procedures. And I also attend the policy committee meetings with Ms. Rachel, and we have a pretty good meeting. The meeting went very well. And I think two things we can make that better is one is we have publish the meeting agenda so people can know what the policy we are going to talk. And another things I would say, I want to see there's, because the public meeting, we can allow the public comments during that meeting so we can collect more information regarding our policies. And regarding the board, the park and recreation board, there are not too much significant things. It's just kind of routine business. So that is. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel?
Yeah, a few things to report on. The promised policy committee meeting, we did meet on and discuss policies, the 5-year release to us. D175 is the one that we voted on tonight. H200 and G450. Those actually have a third leg to them, which is C475. And so we made the decision to hold H200 and G450 until we could review it with C475. We just have received that, and we'll take that to the next one.
And so I would like to ask you please to also release C475 to us in policy committee, if you would.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, so the two new ones that'll be released to us are 200 and 475.
Correct.
Okay. We had some other questions on H250, that's the school library material removal, and A125, nepotism, conflict of interest, and gifts. And so we sent questions out to legal counsel through the board chair, just so the whole board knows the process is the notes, we put them together, they go to the board chair decides what additional information the board may need to review. So Lawrence and I were very careful to not discuss our own personal views about the policy. This is more administrative collaboration to make sure that the policies are ready for the whole board and the community to weigh in on. So Mr. Wong and I disagree slightly. He would like to have community members present at the committee meeting. I feel it's much more appropriate for community members to be available after they've re-entered the board. And so, that's just declaring that difference in philosophy. But that's where we stand. And so now with one voted, we have 4 remaining as old business, and we have 2 new that are coming on. So we'll have 6 policies that we'll be working through the next time we meet. And that meeting is not yet determined, but I'm sure we'll schedule soon. Also on, I did have one question for Dr. Greiner. I understand we've had a community member who's been fairly insistent and active on social media that we have not correctly reported our bullying incidences. And I understand there was an IDOE investigation to that. And I wonder, Dr. Reiner, if you could update the board on the outcome of that.
We had, and you can correct me, it's been a while, Mrs. Roth, but we did have that investigation. We met with IDOE and our records were consistent with what they have and with what we have in our system as those situations reported.
Okay, so the bottom line is we did report those correctly.
We did report those correctly.
Okay, thank you so much for that update.
You're welcome.
The last thing is WLEA met for a board teacher discussion on 10/17. Really just some general updates that are common for this group. They talked about support staffing update, so those paras, interventionists, custodians, sub-fill rates, all those things. They also asked some questions and had conversation about the tag timeline, some conversation about vector trainings and what might work best for teachers, which was a really great collaborative conversation. Also a little bit more about PD. And then, as you're all aware, there was a fairly time-sensitive topic of the PSAT day bell schedule. So I sent an email out to the board to kind of ask for your support in getting feedback on that pilot back to our administrators. And so thank you for any of you who helped direct our community members who had questions on that one. And that is all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yue.
Be tomorrow, so no update. Just one more thing regarding the tennis pickleball, and if we just need it for pickleball courts, maybe we can convert it for permanently. So there's no need to constantly change nets or make the lines confusing. Sounds to me that can be a solution, because then we won't waste the space either.
That is a possibility. Thank you for raising that. Okay, is that it? Great. Thanks. Mr. Marley. Okie doke. Mr. Schott.
WLSCF is hosting a scholarship information night in partnership with the High School Counseling Office on December 2nd at 6:30 p.m. in the LGI room. Focus will be on scholarships offered through the foundation. December 5th, WLSCF is assisting with the Career and Trades Fair for juniors and seniors. The foundation is working to grow its alumni relations efforts through LinkedIn. Alumni are encouraged to join West Lafayette Schools Alumni Association on the social media platform. It's an opportunity to network and share career news with fellow Red Devil alumni. The foundation hosted a luncheon for retired WLCSC staff on October 22nd at the Whitaker Inn. It was the second year for this event. Corbridge Financial served as the sponsor, and WLSCF is grateful for this partnership. 43 retirees attended and enjoyed good food, lots of laughter and conversation, and a fun West fun West Lafayette trivia game. Finally, Community Council met November 4th, and as Dr. Greiner wrote in his November 8th Friday notes, I was unable to attend. Please reference his notes for a recap of the meeting.
Thank you. I haven't been to the Whitaker Inn yet. You guys never take me anywhere. Okay, and as when I retire, I get to go. Huh? Everybody else has given all my congratulations, so I'll go back to you, Mr. Marley.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
I won't keep it much later, I promise, but actually tonight is going to be my last school board meeting of the year and forever. After serving for 16 years, I felt it's time to hang it up and move on to other challenges, if you will. I tell you what, I began this in earnest 40 years ago when I met my wife, who's a class of 1983 graduate from West Lafayette. And when we moved back here, she said, you can live anywhere you want, but as long as it's in Westside School District, it's fine. So that's where we went, and that's how we got here. And my wife's family goes way back here. So her father went to Westside, her uncle went to Westside, cousins, her brothers. My kids went to Westside, and my kids' significant others are Westside graduates. That's how much this community means to my family. Parents were educators, right? My mom taught first grade for 25 years. My dad started out as a business teacher and a coach before he got into finance. I'll tell you what, we built a love for this community, and I started out coaching my kids' sports, which led me to involvement in the school corporation. Somebody figured out I was in banking and finance, and we said, you know what, we've got some challenges here. We got to figure some things out, and we need to put a group of people together, a think tank, if you will, blue ribbon task force. And that's what we did. We identified some areas that we needed to pay attention to, not the least of which was continuing to fund our schools. That gave genesis to the West Lafayette Schools Education Foundation, which actually raised dollars not just for needed improvements in our schools, but actually funded some of the needs that we had to run that first general fund referendum campaign. And not only that, a lot of you might remember this, we actually had to approve a reduction in force before we got the first referendum approved. And that was unfortunate because we had 10 or 11 teachers involved in that. And when we ran a campaign, Save Our Schools, we raised the dollars to keep those jobs right here in the school corporation. Fantastic effort. It shows what we can do when we pull together. Since then, since I got on the board 16 years ago, I've ran 3 other times, some of which weren't even contested. And the last couple, we had a few other people running. But since I've been on the board, together collectively, we founded the foundation, as I talked about earlier, very successful. We've approved 3 general fund referendums. We funded a new intermediate school and improvements and additions to our other properties with no increase in tax. We hired, in my book, one of the finest superintendents in the state of Indiana, period. And he brought with him the best administrators we can find in the state of Indiana, okay? And that's a fantastic accomplishment in and of itself because it makes our job really, really easy, right? When we have good people in the right places, that's what we can achieve. Survived a pandemic, we've increased communications and transparency with our community. There's been more collaboration. Became a blue ribbon school. Fantastic award in Washington, D.C. just recently presented to us. Let me point out, this is not a political role. It's a call to service through collaborative effort. This is a team sport. We have all different and varied backgrounds, but at the end of the day, we work together toward a common goal, which is supporting our students. I'm really looking forward to adding our new school board members. They are immensely talented and experienced, and their hearts are in it, which is what it takes. One final thought. Please let teachers do what they love, which is teach. They love our kids, and they will do anything in their power to help them. Let our administration do what they are trained and well qualified to do, which is operate our schools. These are not our jobs to do. Our school corporation is over 100 years old. On the side of Marjoram City Hall, formerly known as Morton Schools, it says, and I quote, "An education is the birthright of every child. If we use this as our driver and focus, West Lafayette schools will be around another 100 years. Thanks for the opportunity to work with one of the greatest public school systems in the country. Appreciate it. It's been my honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Appreciate it.
I have learned a great deal from you, and I want to say thank you for the last 4 years that you have been an inspiration to me and for everything you've done to give my kids a fantastic education. Thank you. And before I get any further choked up, our next meeting will be here at 6 p.m. on December 9th. If we are going to have a work session, it will be announced in advance, so look at the website for that. Thanksgiving break is Wednesday, November 27th through Friday, November 29th. I hope everybody has a safe and happy holiday. First semester will end December 20th, and winter break begins on Monday, December 23rd. With that, I need a motion. Moved by Mr. Marley, seconded by Lawrence. All those in favor of adjourning Brad's last meeting? That's everybody, Mrs. Julian. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.